Hi, this is Bob Brown, and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is continuing on a series on business and philosophy, and so in this section we're going to introduce the student to Erasmus. Erasmus was born in 1469 and died in 1536. He was born in Rotterdam, and he was the illegitimate son of a priest. He was educated in the school of Brethren of the Common Life and became a priest. He was secretary to the Bishop of Cambrai and then a student at the University of Paris. And I'm reading from the excellent series, if you can get a copy of this, it's the condensed version, The Philosophy of the 16th and 17th Century. The general editors are Paul Edwards and Richard H. Popkin. Readings in the History of Philosophy. This is an excellent series on philosophy. It's condensed. It has all the major philosophers, and in this is kind of a connection video between the Standing Rock Sioux's demanding autonomy and self-determination and the prevention of the destruction of a valuable resource, water, by a less valuable resource, I argue, oil. Oil is valuable, yes, but it's not as valuable as water. Fresh water is the most valuable resource on this planet. So you have a contention of two resources. And I talk about the post-fact world. And the post-fact world is that people get caught up in appearances versus reality. And the reality is, fresh water is more valuable than oil. It's a simple fact. The World Health Organization estimates that by the year 2025, over 4 billion people will have inadequate access to water. 4 billion people. So in honor of that, I thought I'd bring up a favorite philosopher from the early Renaissance, the late Middle Ages, the early Renaissance, Erasmus. And I'll read from his famous book, In Praise of Folly. And this really shows you how Erasmus, over 500 years ago, understood the post-fact world. This is from In Praise of Folly. Quote, "The notion that happiness comes from a knowledge of things as they really are is wrong. Happiness resides in opinion. Human affairs are so obscure and various that nothing can be clearly known. This was the sound conclusion of the academics, who are the least surly of the philosophers. At least as something can be truly known, it is rarely anything that adds to the pleasure of life. Anyway, man's mind is much more taken with appearances than with reality. This can be easily and surely tested by going to church. When anything serious is being said, the congregation dozes or squirms. But if the ranter, the reverend, begins some old wives' tale, as often happens, everyone wakes up and strains to hear. You will also see more devotion being paid to such fabulous and poetic saints as George, Christopher, or Barbara than to Peter, Paul, or even Christ himself. But these examples belong elsewhere." So that's from Erasmus, In Praise of Folly. It's from this volume. And it speaks to the post-factual world. Here we have, over 500 years ago, Erasmus shows us that, happiness resides in opinion. And that's what I'm trying to get to in the science of business. We're trying to get past opinion to the reality of the situation. And the reality of the situation in this business conflict, and I understand this is a multi-dimensional problem that the Standing Rock Sioux are against. But my area of expertise is business. And I keep pointing out, the Standing Rock Sioux have the correct assertion. Their water, our water, the fresh water, is a much more valuable resource than oil. But the assertion is we're going to put that pipeline and endanger the water supply because oil is more valuable than water. Well, it actually isn't. I just told you that in 2025, World Health Organization says 4 billion people won't have adequate access to water. So if you turn it around, I've made many videos on how this could be done safer. You could reroute this completely. You could put in multiple layers of safety guards. You could give the Standing Rock people access to help monitor the situation, help protect the situation, help guard the situation. All this could be done at very low cost in comparison to an oil spill into the Missouri watershed system that would be catastrophic on the scale of the Deepwater Horizon, if not greater. The Deepwater Horizon was traumatic, but it hit seawater, and that doesn't diminish it. But if this happens, it diminishes freshwater, and that is even more catastrophic. So the Standing Rock's the other point. So again, as Erasmus says, anyway, man's mind is much more taken with appearances than with reality. And the true, as Erasmus has pointed out in Praise of Folly, the true nature of the situation, so Standing Rock Sioux, from a business perspective, they have the correct assertion. They're looking at the reality. The reality is water is more valuable than oil. The reality is that oil pipelines often leak. They often leak, and when they do, in this situation, it will be catastrophic. The appearance is we're getting cheap oil. I don't know if that's true or not, but I would say that the company putting this pipeline into the system, I guarantee you, they do not have the resources to pay for a catastrophic leak. They simply don't have it. They'll fall back on the taxpayer, they'll fall back on the U.S. government, they'll fall back on all of us to bail them out. And I think the Standing Rock Sioux have a good point. They're saying, no, if you don't have the money to take care of the catastrophe that could happen, and we've seen happen, you only have to look at the Deepwater Horizon as the most spectacular of many, many disasters in the recent time. They have a point. So for business students, read Erasmus and Praise of Folly. This is a condensed version of the Praise of Folly. It's a Penguin classic also you can get in Praise of Folly. It's a fascinating look at someone from 500 years ago, and it's amazing. It's almost as though he has a camera into our reality right now. This has been Bob Brown, and thank you for watching my YouTube channel.